Welcome to Ponytails and PepTalks, the podcast where blowouts, breakdowns, and breakthroughs are a weekly discussion. I'm your host, ReJeania. For over 3 decades, I've been behind the salon chair as a stylist, an owner, and yes, your favorite unlicensed therapist. I have heard it all. The tears, the triumphs, the you won't believe what just happened stories from courageous women overcoming incredible obstacles. So let's meet one of them right now on Ponytails and PepTalks. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Ponytails and PepTalks. I'm your host, ReJeania. I'm so excited that you have joined us today. I have someone that has answers for you today. I wonder if you're feeling like me these days, a little overwhelmed, tired, not sleeping very well. And even when I do sleep, I still wake up tired and just kind of out of sorts lately at times. And we're not even sure, what's going on. Joining us today is our Faith and Wellness segment, and our ever knowledgeable Dr. E from the Wellness Hub is with us today. Dr. E, when we were getting ready for this, you brought up a term that I have never heard before, ever. And you brought up quiet exhaustion. And I am very curious as to what this means. Get an explanation for this.
Yeah, I know I've heard from people that they just can't seem to get their feet underneath them. They're just exhausted all the time and can't put their finger on it. So it's a quiet kind of exhaustion that just is happening every day because we're trying to catch up to a world that's going so fast that it's not possible. So, it's just not the physical fatigue, but a really deeper weariness where we're just got mental noise and emotional overload. And that constant pressure that we feel, just that alone just has this stress that we're not aware. We go on our daily lives, but we're quietly exhausted. Just can't seem to get it, just like you described.
Yeah.
So, so today's about talking about how we can just exhale a little bit and not m- try to meet all these expectations. But, modern wellness is always about more, 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 push, 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 try, or another type of benchmarks that we all have to hit. We need to take a step back just a little bit.
I think so. And like you say, it's a modern thing that we're going through because this technology and is faster than we can keep up with even,
Yeah.
and definitely life around us. So, when we think about that, then let's think about generations back. What is it that our grandmothers understood about wellness and life that has just gotten lost these days?
Well, it was a different way of life.
Mm-hmm.
We just came off of the Mother's Day weekend. Uh,
Yes.
it's busy again, and maybe there was lots of preparation and all this to do to make a
Mm-hmm.
perfect day or a perfect weekend or something like that. Where, long, long ago, when grandmothers and great grandmothers, they did with what they had.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a quiet, again, very quiet, steady, safe place. So that's the whole grandmother as a form of emotional support, even that we don't have now, where there's that constant rhythm of life, that simplicity where they're preparing meals and tending gardens and sitting on the front porch, visiting with neighbors, gathering around a
Mm-hmm.
table, things like that, praying quietly, caring for people through very small acts of love. But it was that constant in the background. And
Mm-hmm.
a lot of us don't have that now. I'm a grandmother, of course, and I like to be that for my family where they can come over and there's nothing planned. We just sort of do what we do, read a book or do something. It just doesn't have to be a planned. I know that even kids today, they plan play dates because of the way our society is now. where
Because everyone's so busy that
busy.
they've got to pencil in that time, because they have this going, this going, this going, this going. And, to your point, whenever I would go to my grandmother's house, we hopped on the gas tank out there and that was our horse. We created things to do. We peeled the leaves off the trees and that was our that we put into our little pot and just the simple things. And I think we've lost just a lot of connection nowadays, even though we have the phones and the computers and it's all the connection is superficial. There's no deep connections anymore,
Yeah.
that personal touch connections anymore. And I really think that's what people are missing. They're missing that personal touch, that personal kindness, that personal connection. They're definitely missing it more than what we realize.
Well, I think the connection is in many ways too, Regina. It's the hand on the shoulder, and also just a big, generous, long hug. And
Mhm.
we've had a time throughout the last few years where people didn't touch each other, didn't shake hands, didn't get close to each other. There's still this residual sort of, is it okay to touch somebody kind of thing? Especially you might meet a new friend or whatever, even in families. It's like there's
Yes.
this wall, sort of, it's invisible. But that generous hug, that touch of a warm blanket, the smell of fresh bread, I mean, all of that is that connection part. And I think that's part of why the homesteading movement now is getting such great participation from people because we really do deep down crave that type of connection. And the more we're aware of it, the more we can create those little moments in our life with ourselves and others.
I agree with that definitely. And, there's very few even jobs out there or anything anymore where you can physically touch. I know with what I do as a hairdresser, the wellness things that you do, massage people, we're still left with being able to connect with people. And, you're talking about the hugging, and it's actually scientifically based that, a 20-second hug just does amazing stuff for you. And you've spent a lifetime studying all of this, the wellness, the natural health, the nutrition. What are we missing? What have you learned over the years that you see that we're missing more out of in that aspect?
Well, I think that wellness now is more than just fixing. We have a mentality, oh, this is wrong or that's wrong, and I have to fix it. Where, we're human. I've spent so many years just studying nutrition and wellness and natural health and holistic care. And we're all okay. And we were born with an immune system that is just get us through the day, so to speak. But now it's always about fixing something, or we need to do this or do that, eat this way, eat that way, when we have so many decisions to make in a day. Is it how many carbs, or maybe you're counting your macros and you're doing this and you got to get in so much at the gym. I know we've talked about this before, but
Right.
in the simpler time in life when the body, that quiet exhaustion I'm talking about, that it's the baseline of a lot of our exhaustion physically, mentally, and emotionally. Just
Right.
to have all these decisions that we need to make, we don't need to, but are presented to us. Even the grocery store has hundreds and thousands and millions of different
Of choices. Yes.
prices. Right? Where if we look back and we kind of get onto the days of old front porch thinking is, well, you kind of ate what came out of the garden that day. They had the green beans and and the just the egg things which is just quieter. So quiet in the fact that there's not that many decisions to make, and quiet in the fact that they weren't as stressed out. Now maybe they had other things to worry about, but we have so many, so many.
We do. I think we get up in the morning going, Dear Lord, help me get through this day just to get to the evening. And it's so much more true now. And I see this on a daily basis with my clients. They walk in the door and sometimes they just plop down in the chair. Their mouth comes open and they just spill and spill and spill. And at the end, they're like, it's like they just have to take a breath because so much is going on. And and because of the job I have, they're able to release that, which is wonderful. It makes a safe space. But basically, most of us, I think, are just on autopilot every day. There's so much that we zone out, and just because there's too many decisions, and you can just stand in a circle and just go, I don't know which way to turn. The laundry needs to be done. And you turn and they're like, well, the dishes need to be done. Well, then you turn and well, the laundry, has got to be put away. And all of a sudden you're walking in a circle and you haven't done anything for 15 minutes because there's so much to do. So how do we get back on track? How do we put a reset button and get this back on some kind of normal track for us?
Well, I think it's recognizing throughout the day, again, as you go through your daily life and even setting the tone the night before, what- on the calendar for tomorrow, right? And you got to get up and you got to do these things. And it's already there. But, it's maybe a different style of planning that slows everything down. Within the next 10 or 15 days, all the kids are going to be out of school.
Right.
College, they're even coming home for the summer. These things are happening, and it's what can you do to
Hmm.
just slow it down? What's the priority? Why
Hmm.
do these things matter? And it is a conversation, whether it's creating the space in your home. Again, we've talked about that before too, that it really
Right.
makes a difference when you have a place where you feel safe, where you can talk, where you can just close your eyes.
Hmm.
I think during the day, as you said, you're going around in that circle, and then your phone goes off, or you get a message from somebody, or something
Hmm.
cancels, something else happens.
Yeah.
Whew. And where do those moments of peace come in?
Right. So I know for me, some of the things that I enjoy the most that brings peace to myself, and we've talked a little bit about this before also, is I love to get my coffee in the morning and sit outside on my back porch and just watch my dogs play and just listen to the noise going by. In the evenings, I love my big bathtub and putting my bubbles out and my soft music. For me, that's my quiet time.
Yeah, and that makes all the difference in the world, as you know, just the pleasantness of that, the smell of fresh flowers. I love the smell of that first cup of coffee in the morning, maybe some music. I like to read in the morning. I do some reading. Kind of reminds me of when I used to go visit my grandmother and I'd pop her house on my way somewhere. She lived fairly close. And she'd always have something on the table and we'd make cinnamon toast morning. It was great
Oh,
because just always had that soft butter out with a little bit of cinnamon on it, and it's those things, not putting the toast in, sticking it in your mouth, getting it in the car, and, rushing to
yeah,
go to work or something, is
right.
to that time to have that smell, the aroma, number 1. Cinnamon toast brings back
Mm.
such great peaceful memories for me and my grandma. Childhood, comfort, love, peace. And that's not imaginary. Those
No,
memories stay with you. So we need to be, I think, again, conscious and aware of it so we can create some of that, not just for ourselves, but those around us.
I definitely agree. And, I love that you brought up scent because scent is probably one of the most powerful ways that the mind engages and the senses. And boy, does it bring back memories and like music as well. Music is another thing that can very quickly bring a memory back to you. I know even people that have Alzheimer's and different things like that, sometimes they'll actually start playing music from their generation and it just sparks something in their mind. It wakes them up. So even when things like that are going on, the scent the music, things like that are so powerful. Setting the scene. Let's talk about that. You've done a lot of hospitality and hotel and things like that in your life. How has that influenced your approach to wellness?
Well, yes, being in the hospitality business now, hotels, restaurants, all the things I've done over the last 47 years, basically,
Yeah.
with a side, this wellness thing has just also that background is that when a person walks through the threshold of a hotel, they're there for maybe business or pleasure, or they're going just to have dinner or an event or something, but they feel different. They're coming across and there's so many people there to just take care of them. Hi,
Right.
come on. Yes, you go this way, go that way. Oh, I'll park your car for you. Come back out, and you got it done. And or your room's ready for you. Go on
Yeah.
upstairs, take a break, then come down and have some dinner. It's a scene, as you said, and it's
Hmm.
it's meant to be relaxing and wonderful, and to create spaces like that because we design and develop hotels too. So, and when we're doing that, it's like making a movie. You're really walking through the guest experience. So we can do a lot of that in our own homes too, is we have an experience of living in our house. Our homes or apartments or wherever we live is and our cars are probably some of the most expensive things we have. You know,
Right.
they're ours to do with what we want to and create an atmosphere that has that hospitality in there. And
Hmm.
when you have someone come over or you host a little dinner party or lunch or something, that's beautiful because they go to your house and they're just going to be taken care of. We're going to some good food. We're going to talk and we're going to care for each other. Maybe we'll give each other some really big 20-second hugs.
That's exactly right.
That creates hormones that makes us feel so good.
It
And
does.
that's the hospitality hug, even though it's not physical, but you're creating a beautiful, comfortable chair, peaceful time after a long journey. You go, if you're on a road trip, you know how important that is to just
I I
relax.
do, and it is, and it's to me, it feels like someone taking a little bit of my load off, because you know what? I don't have to clean it. That's gone. I don't have to make my own coffee. That's gone. I can sit in a chair that's not full of dog hair. It feels so nice and comfortable. The thing about looking at the hotels, even since my daughter is having her surgery next week. I've been, had been doing the, click through and find the hotel or find an Airbnb because we're going to be there for a couple of weeks. And the thing that I noticed is that the place that I chose it was the most peaceful looking. It was well put together. It wasn't a bunch of stuff sitting around everywhere. Although there was some other ones that didn't have a lot of stuff sitting around, but it was so vacant and so bare that it didn't feel welcoming and warmth and not a place that I would have felt nurtured. So we do, I think, even without even realizing it, we look for those, nurturing places. And that's what I did. And even in our own homes, I was watching this girl on TikTok and she was downing her in her laundry room, and she had decorated her laundry room just amazingly, decorated her boxes and put them up there and put these things over here. And she has a record player. And while she's down there doing laundry, it's her little space. And she turns her records on and does her laundry and creates her own personal space to relax, to let go of everything even though that she's doing a chore. So,
Well, and I think that's one of the things too. And the older I get, for sure, is that healing. It's a healing activity, doing the laundry in a space that you created for yourself. It's those really ordinary moments again that make all the difference in the world. As I said, I like to read in the morning. So I just keep my books on the kitchen table. I might be reading a couple of books at a time. So I try to go through chapters, not just the whole book at once. And And that day, I feel like I'm making progress, which is good. And also, I have a choice. I say, "Oh, I think I'm in the mood for this one today." And so
Yeah.
that's my little coffee reading ritual in the morning of just, maybe watching the birds outside while I'm doing that. So, anyway, those are the fun things, those ordinary moments where that's creating a wellness for yourself and calming down that wired and tired feeling.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
It's,
underlining, as you say, that quiet exhaustion that's
yeah.
going on. The fix for that in a couple of words would be to build a peaceful place so
Yeah.
that your mind, so that your system, your nervous system can calm down and relax for just a little while so that you can reset.
Yeah.
Well, this, as usual, powerful, insightful information for us, Dr. E. Thank you for another great conversation on tips to help keep ourselves well, mind, body, and soul, because all of these tips, were for that today. My takeaway kind of from this, I would say today would be go back through your memories. What was it when you were a child, when you were at your grandparents' house? What were the things that created peace for you? I would love, love, love to see families go back to having dinner together at the table. That was so important for me and my kids whenever we were little. And they didn't always like it, especially as they got to be teenagers and they wanted to eat in front of the television, because that's what everybody was doing. And I wouldn't let them do that because to me that created a space and a connection that they were on their life all day. I was on my life all day. So I would say find those places to bring back some traditions, those times that felt like peace to you in your life. Just start that again. Start a new tradition, bring back traditions, go decorate your washroom so that it feels like your personal space. Make cookies with your grandkids. I remember cooking, with my grandmother and just watching her in the kitchen and making things. And even that back then was such a peaceful memory that I cherish for today. Any last words for us?
Well, just take that deep breath and as you said, just pick something. One or two things as we talk about a lot too on these segments that we do is it's not the big things that happen all the time, but it's those little things. And again, the celebration of Mother's Day reminds us that we take the time to do that. So we can take the time to create those peaceful moments for ourselves and our family and start or bring back a tradition that you may have fallen away from. I think it's super, super, super important and it'll calm your nervous system.
There's that little saying about what KISS, can mean. And keep it
Yeah.
simple, stupid. Just keep it simple. Stop overdoing it. So thank you, Dr. E, for all your words today. And I think it's a lot of things that people needed to hear today, especially with so much going on. I want to thank our listeners for listening today. I hope you guys had a great Mother's Day. I did. It was a wonderful day. We skipped the restaurant and went to the lake and had snacks and just had a great time. And for those of you who didn't, then you know what? My heart and my love goes out to you. I would ask you guys for prayers. Next week is when my daughter goes for her surgery. And it's getting closer, so it's getting scarier. So I absolutely covet your prayers. We leave on the 17th. We fly to California. She will have a major, major surgery. She'll be in the hospital for a week. We'll be there for another week. So just keep us in your prayers. We've been walking through her journey. So we will definitely bring you along on the plane ride into the doctor's office, into the hospital, and show you guys just a little piece of what's continuing to go on in her health journey. So, thank you guys. I will see you next week with more information. You guys have a wonderful week. Thank you.